When did the popular kid's life fall apart in a few seconds? Him and a kid I've known since about first grade drove about 8-9 hours to visit a friend who had moved away at the time and was feeling depressed. They were going to surprise him and he called saying he found a way to get a plane ticket back to them, where they all three were friends originally, while they were already 14 hours deep in a road trip. So they turned around, and when they were about 45 minutes from home, they got into a bad accident and he died on the scene. The kid I knew from first grade watched his best friend bleed out next to him upside down in his car. He had long hair and the paramedics thought he was a female upon arrival, and first grade friend said he was desperately trying to tell them he was a boy and his name and to call his family to tell them what happened. He was pronounced dead before the ambulance even took off. First grade friend came back to school after a little under 2 months with a 16-inch long and about 1-inch wide scar all the way up the back of his arm. They were in a band together and played in the school's band. Hallways were bleak for months, probably the rest of the year honestly. He sat with us at lunch and tried to be normal, but we all knew he wasn't the same. They were good people, and even though only one of them died, it was like they both left that day because he was never the same. I don't even think he makes music anymore. I knew them both for almost 10 years when it happened, and it was the first time somebody I knew that was my age had died, and it was very sobering. You know nobody's immortal, but you don't expect somebody to be ripped from existence so quickly. Developed a conscience midway through college after gaining 50 pounds and losing his starting QB spot. Checked into rehab for alcoholism and made amends with everyone he had ever bullied, which was basically everyone in our high school. I ran into him in my hometown last year and we had a nice chat. People can change. Unfortunately, a cheerleader from my school had a four-wheeling accident that left her in an almost vegetative state. Through years and years of hard work on her part, she's been able to gain a little more independence. However, she'll never be exactly the same as she was before the accident. It's really sad and crazy how quickly your life can change from an accident. Went out drinking on a Saturday night with a friend of his. He drove home and slammed into a brick wall at 40 miles per hour if I remember that correctly. His friend in the passenger seat barely survived, but he died on impact. The captain of the football team underwent surgery his senior year. I was 13 on the middle school team. His younger brother and I were very close, so I was around him a lot. I looked up to him like an older brother. He drove me to early practices, was very smart, dated a pretty cheerleader, not a mean bone in his body. He had it all. For a 13-year-old, he was my hero. After his surgery he got hooked on painkillers. He went from painkillers to heroin. He was arrested multiple times for theft and drug possession. This went on for years. I would always ask my friend from middle school how he was doing. It never got better. He died last year. Drugs suck. I miss my hero. Edit, typo. Also, thank you for all your support on this comment. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction to anything, please ask for help from someone. My PMs are always open as well. He started doing heavy drugs and fist-fought the vice principal. Parents kicked him out at 18. Haven't heard much since. Did he win? 3 popular kids went swimming in a quarry. Only 2 came out. It sucks because the one that died was popular for all the right reasons. He was a genuinely good dude. I was the weird kid, but his locker was right next to mine and he was friendly every single day to every single person. I don't know that his life really fell apart, because it turns out his home life was terrible all along, but it definitely shifted how people looked at him. And I went to a small school, so there weren't too many divisions between people. When you only have 40-something kids in a grade, popular is kind of relative. But, a kid's mom decided to leave her husband, The kid's stepdad. The stepdad, who was known to faculty and was considered a good guy, stopped by the school to deliver something to his stepson. Cool, the secretary gave him a pass to drop it off at the stepson's class, rather than call him down to the office. The stepdad actually had a gun and had no idea where the stepson was during that period, so was roaming the halls. Luckily, a friend of the stepson, who knew what an abusive, dangerous guy the stepdad was, happened to be in the office and alerted everyone. We all went on lockdown, the police came, we were stuck for a couple of hours as they swept the school after arresting the guy. Then, it came out that the kid had been abused for the entire time his mom had been married to the guy, and she only was leaving him after he started hitting her. It was a whole thing, and while everyone had pretty much always liked the kid, he suddenly just had everyone feeling sorry for him. Teachers let him go back and redo assignments to boost his grade. People gave him stuff to start over. He just kind of got really closed off and stopped joking around and only hung out with like 3 people after that. He was known as the abused kid with a stepdad who was going to shoot up a school, and that's hard to get over. He was an only child, and his dad had died when he was 2. Was really happy-go-lucky, and he was popular because he was outgoing, supportive, warm and kind to everybody without fail, and although he was friends with the kind of kids who bullied people, he was the first person to tell them to knock the shit off if he saw it. When we were 16, his mom, who was one of the nicest ladies I ever met in our small town, was crushed to death by a semi-trailer that drifted into her lane. He dropped out of school, he stopped talking to anybody, and he refused to let anyone visit him. I have no idea what became of him. Sorry Jay. I hope your life got better. There was this kid that I went to high school with almost 20 years ago who was 2 grades ahead of me. Seemed like the popular kid. He had a hot GF, he was really funny, decent at sports and didn't seem to have issues. Anyways, turned out one day his mom came home to him laying in the basement with a bullet wound in his head. I was told he used a shotgun to kill himself but loaded it birdshot. Because of this he didn't die. I now see him walking around town and he can't speak anymore and walks as if he had a stroke. One side of his body doesn't work properly. Really sad, and that's all I can think about anytime I drive around and see him walking. You never know what people actually feel inside. You might wish you could be someone else because everything seems so perfect, but rarely is that ever the case. My brother was the popular kid in school. He was loved by everyone, and most of the people I graduated with know him, but since we have different last names didn't know we were related until I told them. He started pills in high school, then coke, then heroin. In and out of jail, forced into rehab instead of serving jail time. Lived in our mom's basement until he was 30. He finally moved out, but my parents paid his rent. He's a year sober now though. Guy on the football team sent a girl's nudes that the entire football team and a good portion of people in my grade got arrested during class. I haven't seen him since. He got made fun of because he wanted to wait to have sex with his new GF, popular girl, so he caved and did it. Teen pregnancy.
Make sure to like and subscribe for more stories.